everybody. Welcome to the Hallmarkies podcast. We have a very special, unique episode of the podcast today. I'm film critic Rachel Wagner. Today we have jewelry designer Peggy Li on the podcast, and we're so excited to be able to talk with her about her work on the upcoming A Christmas Carousel, and we are going to be also talking about our favorite films from Rachel Boston, one of our favorite Hall stars. And Peggy, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Rachel, thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah, so why don't you start out by introducing yourself to our listeners and tell us a little bit about what you do.
Sure. My name is Peggy Li, and I'm a jewelry designer. I've been making and selling jewelry for about 20 years now. And, it's a career I never thought I would have. I graduated from college with a science degree, and for a while I thought I'd be a screenwriter. I'd moved to Los Angeles to pursue that.
Oh.
And in the meantime, I was, making jewelry for fun for myself, sort of as a hobby. But while living in LA, I was into movies and film, and I had the chance to meet the costume designer for Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And I just, after that interview, I dropped a few pieces in the mail and said, hey, I make some of this stuff. I don't know if you guys are interested. And long story short, they used it on the show, and a business was born. Suddenly I was a jewelry designer and had a little business. And I've been working with costume designers ever since. And it's sort of been my way to stay connected with the film and TV world. And I love it. It's been a ton of fun.
So had you always made jewelry as a hobby or growing up?
Definitely on the side. It's one of those things where, I've always been craftsy and love to figure out how to make things. And, so if I've ever saw, pieces in the store maybe that I couldn't afford, I'd try and figure out a way to make it for myself. So yeah, I'd always done it sort of on the side and making stuff for friends, but I never imagined it as a career.
Yeah, that makes sense. That sounds fun. I can see that. That sometimes we do what we kind of plan to do as far as our academic career, and then other times we just kind of stumble into a career. I feel like
Totally.
it becomes a surprise.
Yeah, it's a surprise, and I love it. And I think in some ways, the fact that I didn't it was never like my first dream or top of mind. It's like I've been able to have some perspective on it and really have some fun with it, and I'm a little more flexible with it. Mm-hmm. It's been great.
That's great. I love that. So you got started with Buffy. It was your first project then that you did, and how do you get involved in projects for the most part? Is it the costume designer that then contacts you and you work with them?
Yeah, or I contact them. So, I like I'm a fan first, right? And when there's shows that I love or actors and characters that I love, I often, I just reach out to the costume designer and introduce my work and ask if they'd like to use it. And it goes from there. But the contact is through the costume departments. But what's great is, like anything else, you develop a relationship with people. And as they go from project to project, they'll often call you up and say, hey, I'm on a new project. Love to see some pieces. And you go from there.
What's some of the most challenging pieces that you've ever designed?
I was asked to create a piece for a movie, and the request was like an oversized Star of David. That was a really fun project. Another really fun project was for Empire, and they wanted to recreate a belt that was worn by Prince. There was going to be a Prince costume party that the character was going to attend. And they wanted a recreation of this belt that was really iconic that Prince wore. So I sawed a lot of different shapes out of silver and recreated a belt for them, which was really fun.
So you do belts and things like that too.
When you're asked to do something, you find a way.
That's really cool. Was the Star of David, what was that, a necklace or
it was
what
a pendant?
Was that?
It was a pendant for a necklace. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And what was that for?
Oh my gosh, I'm going to forget. I don't think it actually made it into the final movie.
Oh, okay,
But that
okay.
also happens too, right? You can send stuff. They
Uh-huh.
may or may not use it. You
Sure.
never know.
Yeah. That's interesting. That's interesting. And how did you first start working with Hallmark and Hallmark Productions?
It was through Rachel. So I had sent jewelry in or worked with a costume designer for the TV show Witches of East End, which Rachel Boston was a part of, and she was so kind. I'm trying to think back of how it actually happened. I think she contacted me and said she was on a movie and she would love to see some pieces. Um,
Mhm.
and of course, so with Rachel, it's often through her. She'll contact me and say she's on a new project and that she'd love to see pieces, which is so kind and awesome. And she's just been such a supporter.
Yeah. That's so interesting to me because it's just amazing how many different pieces there are to making any film, whether it's Hallmark or a feature film or anything that we don't even think about as viewers, that would go into. Obviously, we were aware of the costume, especially in a costume heavy film,
Right,
but you don't even think as much about something like the jewelry or I mean, just so many things like the food styling and the
yeah.
just little things like that that
The background
yeah, the
actors.
car selections, unless it's a really flashy,
Yeah,
obvious kind of car heavy movie. There's all the stuff that goes into the hair. The it's just
yeah.
it's incredible.
Almost every detail is designed, right? Someone has put some thought into it, and um, it's interesting. Sometimes I'll run into people who are like, "Oh, I thought the actors bought their own jewelry and clothes, and that they all shop at Tiffany's." And it's like, well, no, not always.
No,
you know? So, I agree with you.
yeah,
Sometimes, people don't realize like how much of it is completely designed and thought out, and every detail is sort of orchestrated for the characters and for the story.
yeah. So when you're making a piece, do they give you like a specific budget that then you can work with,
Um,
or yeah?
Yeah, every production is different, so there's usually different requirements depending on their budgets, their requirements. So it can be really different. Um, it can be fun where sometimes I'll get briefs where people say, "Here are the different characters. I'm looking for pieces for this character who's corporate executive, and then there's this character who's hippie chic." Um, it's fun when I get briefs like that because then I can sort of like put my own imagination to it and try and create or send pieces that I think fit those characters. So that can be really fun.
Mhm.
Um, Often with Rachel, she'll give me a little bit about what her character is, and so then I can try and send stuff that I think will fit that character.
hmm If you are doing a period piece, do you do you research the correct look for that period?
I do not do period jewelry, so for me, it's definitely finding the right fit as well, right? Like my stuff is
Mhm.
sort of contemporary and simple, so I'm not going to offer my work to a period piece, for example. It's not my
But something like
expertise. It's not my
okay,
not my
but
jam.
something like Empire, isn't that set in like the 70s?
No,
I've never watched the show.
yeah, it's a
Sorry.
no, that's right. It's a contemporary show about like the
Oh,
music
okay.
industry. Yeah,
Oh, okay. My bad.
no.
I guess yeah, with Prince, that would be later. Um, but yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, I
And
try to find a good fit for my work. It's period stuff is not my expertise, so I would.
okay,
If someone asks me to do it, then yes, I would do research. I would make sure it's within my
uh,
skill set to make what
right.
they're looking for.
When you watch movies, do you notice the jewelry because you make it?
Oh,
Because you make, yeah,
100%. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Everybody
of
else is
course.
like, "What are you looking at?"
Totally.
You're like watching Titanic. You're like, no, don't throw the necklace. That's funny. Uh, well, so would you say that you are a fan of Hallmark movies in general?
Oh, I love Hallmark movies. Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think for the same reasons a lot of people love them, which is they're always so gentle and uplifting and happy. And uh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Have you gotten to see any this season?
Oh my gosh. My favorite this season, uh, oh my gosh, was The Miracle Tree. Did you see that one?
Oh, the Angel
The
Tree?
Angel Tree.
Yeah.
The Angel Tree. That was my favorite. I really loved the story, and I really thought the story sort of resonated. If people haven't seen it, writer goes to a small town. There's a tree where people's wishes are granted when they put a wish on it, um, and I really loved that one.
It was sweet. It was sweet. And, Jill Wagner, she's great.
Yeah,
So that's always
I
nice.
like that.
And yeah, so then you were saying off air that you've been able to watch some Lifetime
Hmm.
this year.
Hmm.
And so you saw a sweet Sugar and Spice holiday.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
I like that
The,
one a lot. I thought it was really cute and witty and funny.
yeah.
The family dynamics were super funny, and being Asian American, I sort of really
Yeah.
related to some of the little touches that were in there because it was like the first all
Yeah.
Asian American cast. Um, so I thought
And
that was really cute.
Irene did such a good job with that script. I thought it was really funny, and and just I don't know, little things like her comparing everybody to a snack, what snack or
To a baked
cookie they
good.
were right. Yeah, that was hilarious,
Hmm.
and I only regretted that I hadn't seen the movie before interviewing her because I would have asked her what what pastry I was most like. That would have been funny to know. I think they missed an opportunity because you could have had a really funny like BuzzFeed quiz. What pastry are you thing?
Totally.
Like going along with the
Hmm.
movie. That could have been really
Totally.
funny.
I mean, the
Yeah,
hardest thing about this time of year is that there's so many movies. Um,
I
and
know.
now that
I
Lifetime's
know.
in the mix, it's like, wow,
Yeah.
there's so I have so many on my TiVo right now. there've
Yeah.
been there've been a lot about jewelry designers I've noticed. So I've definitely I want to watch those. I watched I'm going to forget the titles of all these movies, but it was like a Christmas bracelet
Oh yeah, a little
a
Christmas
little Christmas
charm.
charm. That was it.
Yeah.
So I was, of course, I'm like, okay, I have to watch this because it's
Yeah.
about a jewelry designer. So I watched that one, and I really loved sort of when they did the retro.
That's
Did
true.
you
She is
see
a
it?
jewelry designer, isn't she?
Did you watch that one?
Which one?
A little Christmas charm.
I did. It
Okay.
wasn't my favorite, I'll be honest.
Wasn't my favorite, but
It was a little boring for me, but you may find it more interesting
I mean, it
because
was
of
it
your
wasn't my favorite Hallmark one this year, but I did love the retro scene where they dressed up in like 20s outfits.
Oh,
That was
yeah,
really
that was
cool.
fun.
That was nice.
That was fun.
But yeah,
Yeah, I thought that his character was a little smug for my
he was.
taste.
I mean, she calls him out at some point, like, "Dude, you're being a
Mhm.
stalker," and I was like, "Yes, yes,
Yeah,
you are."
yeah.
It was a little
Um,
much.
so yeah, but that's true. It is about a jewelry designer. I kind of
Mhm.
forgot that. But you're right. Um, but I'd say in general, I think it's been a really good season for Hallmark. They've had a few misses, but even their misses aren't like as bad as some years misses. If
And
that makes
I feel like this is definitely a transition year for them, where they're really trying to
yeah,
stretch their storytelling and maybe try and break some of the typical things. And it
yeah,
like any transition time, it's a little going to be
yeah,
a little awkward.
yeah.
And they're pumping
And
out a lot of content, so
yeah, I appreciate. I mean, it's a miracle. I can't believe that they pulled it off. 40
right.
40 movies in this year. I mean,
Yes.
literally no other studio is doing anything even close
Yes. Yeah. True.
to that. I mean, it's unbelievable. And I mean, they're going to come out of 2020 with over, I think, over 100 movies or close to it total for the whole year. And that's just unbelievable.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. With
And
all the safety precautions they've had to
uh,
take and just the
yeah,
uncertainty of what's
uh,
happening. Yeah, for sure.
I know that a lot of from the earlier part of the year before Christmas were acquisitions and old movies that they purchased
Hmm.
and re-aired or whatever. But even so, it's just been remarkable what they've accomplished, and I think it's just
What are some of
incredible.
your favorites that you've seen so far?
Yeah, so my favorite is Delivered by Christmas. I thought it was just about a perfect little rom-com. I loved
Mm.
both of the leads so much, and I loved the dialogue. You could kind of tell it was a new writer who, was on board. And just I don't know, just the dialogue and the banter, and I absolutely loved it. I also loved Christmas Ever After over on Lifetime Channel. I thought that it was such a funny idea that she is this writer who goes to the inn, and she has writer's block, and the son of the innkeeper looks like her hero in her romance novels. That was just funny to me, and she's freaking out. And she's like, you look exactly like Desmond from my novels." That was funny, and I loved Ali Stroker. She was so delightful, and it's cool to have a something different, to have a heroine in a wheelchair.
Mhm.
And I thought the fact that it wasn't even a thing in the script was awesome, but there were like little moments that were sweet in that one. I just loved that movie, and um, I also, from Hallmark, I loved The Christmas Waltz. I thought that was just delightful. Did you get to see that?
I did not get to see that one.
That one I definitely recommend, especially if you like dancing. I It's so whimsical and sweet, and I really really enjoyed it. And probably the biggest surprise of the whole year, it was for me, was The Christmas Bow with Michael Rady.
I saw the previews for that. I was totally want to watch it, and I haven't
Yeah.
caught it yet.
Yeah, it's definitely one to catch up on. I thought, "Oh, this looks kinda maudlin." She's not a trained actress, she's a violinist, but it was quite good. I really enjoyed it, and, it's that one surprised me a lot.
It's really neat to showcase these people with like real talents, right? Real talents
Yeah,
outside of
right.
the norm.
Mhm. Yeah, and I just it had some emotion. I really thought it was well done. So it's been an interesting season. Well, let's talk. We have a Christmas carousel coming up,
Hmm.
and in the movie, it'll be this might air just after the movie has aired, so you all have to let us know what you think. But the description on Hallmark Channel. When Lila is hired by the royal family of Encadia to restore their carousel as a surprise present for the prince's niece, she works with him side by side to complete it by Christmas. Along the way, they learn they're more similar than they would have thought, and also help each other realize the path in life their hearts want them to follow. So, this movie, what do you think? I know you haven't seen it. You're not involved in that part of it. But what are you anticipating? What are you hoping for in this film?
I mean, to me, it's a classic Rachel Boston Hallmark
Mhm.
movie where there's a task, a craft, an expertise that she has that she's going to get to, showcase and teach someone. I'm guessing there's going to be nicknames and mistaken added, thoughts about each other's
Uh-huh.
attitudes, and I'm hoping more than one kiss. I feel like
Ooh.
I feel like these are hallmarks, no pun intended, for Rachel Boston movies. She's always has an expertise. There's always like bantering nicknames between the two leads, and for some reason in her movies, she gets to kiss the lead more than once, which I think is like, I wonder if she writes that into her contract or something. Because usually I feel like Hallmark films, you get one kiss, one, no more, no less. I feel like somehow she manages
Yeah.
to squeeze in more than one, and
She's fi-
she has the best leading men too.
she's fighting the good fight for us, right? That's funny.
But I
Yeah. I think this will be fun. We have two royal movies this year, which is neat. The first one really well done, One Royal Holiday, which I really in Royal or was that what it was called? Royal Hall. Yeah, One Royal Holiday. I had it right. One Royal Holiday. I really enjoyed it. It was very good, and so the bar is pretty high
Okay. But
uh,
they've held back
with
on how
royal
many they've
movies.
held back on how many royal movies they've done this year. I feel like they didn't really, this will be
Yeah, that's true. That's a good
so,
point.
I think it'll be interesting to see whether how traditional this Ancadia family is and where they end up.
Yeah.
Are they both struggling to be, to live in more of a modern times, or is it going to be more of a fairy tale of like, oh yes, I'm going to now be princess? I don't know.
Yeah. So did you have to work the carousel into the jewelry at all, or
I
what
did
did you
not.
decide?
I did
Okay.
not. I think when it comes to Rachel and her tastes, it's definitely, sweet, feminine,
Uh-huh.
simple pieces. So I really thought about. I always think about that when I send her
Yeah.
pieces.
Well,
And
that's
you never
very
want to be too on the nose either.
right. Yeah. That's
You restore carousels. You're not going to wear like a carousel.
yeah, that's true. That makes sense. So this can be really fun. Well, yeah, let's talk about Rachel Boston and what do you think makes her such an appealing leading lady for these films?
I mean, I think she's just she herself is a sweet and delightful person, and I think that comes through with her characters. And she has that girl next door look. She's beautiful, but not like intimidatingly, you know, gorgeous.
Yeah.
She's a gorgeous person because of who she is, as well as being the girl next door and pretty and beautiful that way. Um, and I think she, when she has these skills and expertise of the characters, you believe it. You believe that she's going to be a carousel restoration expert, and you believe she has sculpted ice, since she was
Right.
a child. Like, I think she really embodies
Yeah.
those characters so well, and that's why she's such a great Hallmark heroine.
Yeah, she is a great leading lady for Hallmark because she I think, embodies the positivity of these movies and sort of she brings a sort of whimsical nature to her roles, I think,
Mm-hmm.
that she's positive and sweet and just kind of exactly what you want in a Hallmark leading lady. And she's never come on the podcast. Rachel, if you're listening, come on. We'd love to talk to you. It would be so fun. But yeah, we love her. She's great. And so we're going to talk about our top five. Both of us are going to share our top five Rachel Boston roles on Hallmark Channel. Doesn't
Mhm.
necessarily have to be holiday, or at least mine. I didn't do exclusively holiday.
I did not eat.
Uh, okay, good. Uh, all right. Well, what do you have at number five?
I have A Ring by Spring, which I think was her first, maybe it was one of her first Hallmark movies.
Um, I actually didn't write down the
I,
order.
I didn't either.
I probably should have.
But A Ring by Spring, uh, where she gets a fortune teller tells her she needs to get engaged by spring, or else she's doomed to be alone forever,
Yeah.
something like that.
I love this one, and so I have it a little higher, so we'll
Okay.
talk about it
Mm,
a little more.
okay.
But yeah, it's a really good pick. Obviously, I
Mhm.
have it even higher, so very good. All right. Well, my number five is Ice Sculpture
Okay,
Christmas.
that's in my top
Yeah.
five.
Okay, good. So you have it higher. So
Mhm.
yeah, I really enjoy this one. I think that David Alpay is very charming. I think the two of them make a really good match in here. And I mean, something so kind of not exciting as ice sculpture, it works because she's a pretty interesting character and it's just overall a pretty entertaining script.
Yeah, I like that one a lot too. I think unlike maybe some other Hallmark movies, there's a lot of different conflicts going on in that one where there's sort of this class conflict where she's, her dad's a worker at this ritzy hotel and he's the son of the hotel owner. And
Yeah.
there's the conflict between her and the different chefs in the kitchen where she's working. And then there's sort of like her dad's attempt to start this business. There's a lot of different things going on in there, which I feel like made it a little bit more layered and interesting than most
It's
movies.
true. It's true.
So I really like.
And yeah, they have Brenda Strong in there as
Mhm.
her boss. And so it's not one that has a bad man of business or something. It's a little more complex than that.
Mhm.
And yeah, her dad. So that's a very, very good pick. And that one, uh, yeah, it was written by Tracy Andreen. So no wonder it's great because she's great. Love her. She's one of our favorites. All right, so there we go. So that is my number 5.
Mhm.
What do you have at number 4?
I have A Rose for Christmas.
Oh, interesting. Okay. So what do you like about this one?
Well, I love plants and flowers, so the idea of creating
Yeah.
a New Year's Rose Parade float was really cute and original and a little different. You know, a little
Yeah.
skewed from the typical Christmas thing. So I thought that was really interesting, and so I loved that, and I loved sort of her sort of tough tomboy character in the movie.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a little different. And it was nice because it's set in Pasadena. Obviously, you have to have it set in Pasadena for the Rose Parade.
Mhm.
It's like one of the only, if not the only Hallmark movie set in a warm
Yeah, warm
climate,
climate.
which is nice. Nice break. So that there you go. That's and then Mark Ben David in there, Rachel
Mhm.
Boston. Yeah, that's an interesting pick. All right. So my number 4 is Chicken to Christmas from last
Yes,
year.
last year's. That's a good one. That's
Yeah.
a good pick.
Mhm. Yeah, I just thought it was really funny and they made good use of sort of the trope of the warring families and they had a good sense of humor about it and her and Wes had such good chemistry that I enjoyed that and the fact that they're kind of well aware that their families are insane and they make their jokes about it and
Now,
so
now that you
that
talk about it, I don't know why it's not in my top five because it's not, but I agree with you totally. Like super charming, and for me, it was like, okay, no dead parents, thank goodness.
yeah that's true
Everybody's alive, grandma's alive. It was like, whew, it was a little bit more
yeah
lighthearted and fun in that way because it was just all about the rivalry and their chemistry. So I agree with you totally on that one.
yeah
Why is it
watch
not my top five, Rachel?
Yeah, watch the mothers in Hallmark World. You're gonna be it's that and Disney. There's
Yeah,
little hope.
exactly. Whew.
Yeah.
That was a pleasant surprise on that one.
Yeah. All right. What do you have at your number 3?
I had Ice Sculpture Christmas as my number three.
Okay, okay, yeah.
And I think
So
also
what do you
because she wears a lot of my jewelry in that one. So maybe a little biased.
Oh, yeah?
Maybe a little biased. But
Yeah, was
yeah.
this one of the first that you did with her? You
No, I think it was A Gift of Miracles was the first.
Oh, okay, okay. Cool.
Um, yeah.
I actually never seen that, A Gift of
You
Miracles.
know, Rita Moreno is in it, which is almost enough again to put it in the top five because she's amazing. Uh,
Uh-huh.
it's really it's a sweet one. It's sweet.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Um All right. So at number 3 for me,
Hmm.
I have Stop the Wedding.
Hmm.
And yeah, so this one, Niall Mater, so charming as usual. The whole concept is kind of different.
Yes.
The two of them pairing up to stop this wedding. The Alan Thicke, great, is his uncle. He's going to marry her aunt. They're against it. They're going to try to stop the wedding. Of course, they end up, falling for each other while they're doing it.
Hmm.
And I think that Nina did a great job with that script because it's definitely characters that could be very unlikable for what they're doing.
Hmm.
But I think also the casting helps a lot when you have someone like Rachel because it just helps it be more likable because
Hmm.
she's so likable as an
Yeah,
actress.
she doesn't have sharp edges. She's
Yeah.
snarky or she's devious. It's it's all coming from a good place.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good
And
one.
so that one, I think it's funny and I enjoy
Mhm.
it.
You're definitely
And
on the rom-com side.
yeah, yeah, that's true. I definitely, and that's interesting that a lot of her pieces are more of the, have a little more of that comedy
I think
kind of in there.
there's always a lot of banter and friction
Yeah.
in that way, in classic sort of rom-com way.
Mhm. Yeah, and you don't really think of her as like a comedic actress, but now that I'm thinking about it, a lot of her movies do actually have quite a bit of comedy,
Mhm.
which is interesting. And I think in a lot of ways she's kind of like the Audrey Hepburn of Hallmark. If there was to be kind of a and
Not a bad
uh,
thing to be.
no, not at all, not at all. All right, what do you have at number 2?
I have The Last Bridesmaid
Ah, okay,
at
yeah.
number 2.
Yeah. Mhm,
And
that was a tough cut for me. I enjoy it.
ooh, okay, okay. Um, to me, that one, well, one Paul Campbell, love
Mhm.
always, and
Yeah.
but it was a very like it surprised me in that it was sort of a very mature movie and a mature romance, in that it seemed very. It was definitely a slow burn, but they really sort of got to know each other along the way,
Yeah.
and so it's felt more realistic
Mhm.
in a lot of ways, and that was surprising to me. Um, and I also loved it because Rachel reached out to me for this one. She plays a jewelry designer.
Yeah, oh yeah, you're right.
So of course I was like, oh my gosh, I have to make the best stuff ever.
Yeah,
And they definitely used, they use other jewelry in these movies all the time. It's not exclusive
sure.
or anything, but um, I felt really honored that she asked me to create some pieces for that movie, because she
Yeah.
also was also playing a jewelry designer. So I thought that was really really cool, and they got the details about being a jewelry designer. They got pretty right, pretty spot on.
Pretty right. That's good to know. Yeah, the longest wedding video in history
It
there.
was over the
Paul
course of a couple
Campbell.
weddings, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is very we had joked on the podcast that they would make it into a Sundance movie and called like American Wedding or something like that. Uh, but yeah, no, you can't go wrong with Paul Campbell, Rachel Boston, Nina Wyman writing it. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it very much. All right.
What's your number
Well,
two?
my number 2 is A Ring by Spring. And I think I like this movie more than most people, I guess it seems like.
It's in my top.
But
It's in my top five.
yeah, yeah, no, that's right. That's true. I love it. I first of all, I love the fact that her leading guy in that one, I forget his name.
Herbie Morrow.
Yeah, he's just a normal looking guy.
I
You know what I
agree with you
mean?
100%. Like, yeah, he's not the
And
dashing prince type.
yeah, and I found that very appealing. I love the supporting cast in this one, with Ali Liebert in there as her friend. I think that that's fun. Jeremy Gilbot is, I think, her is her boyfriend. Giles Penton is in it. It has a really Andrew Francis is in it, so it has a nice supporting cast. Stephanie Powers as the fortune teller. And I don't know, it had kind of a ticking clock to it, which
Mhm,
made it fun. Of
mhm.
she's got to get engaged before this, time runs out. And I really like the ending of it. Really works for me. I don't know. I love their relationship as it grows, and they're trying to work together, but they keep getting more and more attracted to each other. And a lot of times the workplace ones don't work for me because it's just really boring. It's just like the whole movie's in a boardroom. But for me, this one, they kind of had i- enough time outside of the actual workforce, or enough time that felt authentic,
Mhm.
where they were talking and working together, that I felt like I was really engaged in their romance, and really wanted them to be happy, both characters.
And
Uh,
I think it was it's an earlier Hallmark film
Yeah.
that they hadn't sort of gotten to this really, more romantic fantasy land, because these two characters
Yeah.
are sort of, it's not like he's the CEO and she's,
Right.
the someone brought in to help out or something. They're like more on more equal footing, which also makes it feel a little more real, and
Yeah.
romance a little more authentic.
Yeah. And when she goes back to her ex because she's nervous about the prediction, and he is so disappointed. And that whole scene, I think, really works, and I really feel bad. I'm like, no, and I'm really invested. I, if somebody were to ask me what do I think is one of the more underrated Hallmark films, I would say A Ring by Spring. I really think it's funny. I think it's sweet. I think it's very romantic. And if it was set at Christmas, it would be perfect. That's probably the only reason it's not my number one. Uh, so, what is your number one?
My number one is Christmas in Angel Falls.
Yeah, same.
Okay, good.
Same.
There, because it's pretty much a perfect Hallmark Christmas movie,
Yeah.
in my opinion. Perfect. The casting, like Paul Green, Rachel's chemistry with Paul Green, perfect.
Yeah.
So good. And, the supporting cast, Beau Bridges, incredible. And the story itself just lends itself to the whimsy, and the magic you want in a Hallmark movie, where there's the magic of Christmas, the magic of these angels, the magic of, people being able to come together and save the community center. It all just fits in seamlessly to me, and I love it.
Yeah, this is a rare movie I gave a perfect score to. On the podcast. I loved this movie. I still love it. And she is the perfect choice for this role. I mean, she is an angel human, I think, in real life. So,
Yeah.
so of course they have to cast her as the angel. And I think the whole idea of free will and is really lovely and sweet. And it has you get a lot of a feel for a bishop's wife or the preacher's wife kind of idea, I think, in this film, except for in those films, uh, the person the angel's coming to is married, so it's a little awkward. But in this one, and Paul Green is the epitome of the Hallmark leading man in this movie. Not only is he very handsome, of course, but he's also the ultimate man of many jobs. Literally almost every single scene he's in, he has a different job. He's working, well, just like he's volunteering at the fire department, he's working at his mother's store, he's all over he's fixing her plumbing for some reason. He is all over the place. And because the bad man of business is obviously the opposite of that, and so if somebody gets lost in business, that's the ultimate kind of not most of your Hallmark, the antithesis to the leading man for the most part. And so your opposite of that is the man with many jobs who's great at everything, who's your hometown. And so they have incredible chemistry. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the whole ending with them dancing is so good. I think it's just about perfect.
It's a perfect Hallmark Christmas movie.
Yeah.
I agree. It's just so lovely. And there's really awesome little touches, like, she never, I mentioned this to Rachel Boston over social media. I was like, she never carries a purse because she's an angel. Why does an angel doesn't need a purse? She's like, you're right. And I was like, ha, ha, ha. So there are a lot of those fun little touches in the movie that just ties it all together.
Yeah.
And I think their performances are great, and the chemistry between her and Paul is lovely. And
yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah.
I do. And that kiss in the church, oh, it's so good. She just goes for it. I loved it so much. It's
Rachel
so
Boston
good.
had the best set of leading men, I think.
Yeah, it's true.
Paul
Yeah.
Paul Campbell and David Alpay, just Mark and David, pretty good. Not so bad.
Yeah. No, that's definitely true. Well, this is really fun to do. I really enjoyed it. So, if y'all listening, you'll have to let us know what your top five would be for Rachel Boston if you agree with our choices. And before we go, I thought it'd be fun to ask you the holiday Teen Beat questions. You've listened to our podcast, you
Okay.
must have heard these many times.
hmm
So, here we go. What is your favorite holiday drink?
Spiced apple cider,
Very good. That sounds good. What is your favorite holiday cookie or treat?
gingerbread, and gingerbread.
Oh, nice. That sounds good. What is your favorite Christmas song or carol?
you know, so cliche, but all I want for Christmas is you. It's the earworm, and you can't escape it. It's the song.
Yeah.
Why fight
All
it?
right. What is your favorite classic Christmas movie?
Oh, I mean, it has to be "It's a Wonderful Life."
Yeah,
Uh,
it's so good.
it's so good. I also love, and this will come out of left field. I love The Thin Man, and I don't know if you could qualify it as a Christmas movie, but there is they do celebrate Christmas in it. It's William Palmer and Aloy, a classic screwball comedy
Yeah.
mystery. Love them. Does that count?
Yeah. No, I think it definitely counts for sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Very good. I like it. Okay. What is your favorite holiday tradition?
My family would always take a family portrait at Christmas. So I think that's
Oh,
my favorite. You know,
and
all the
that was a
family.
positive experience, huh? Because usually it's like hard corralling everyone, getting everyone together, getting the babies to not cry. Uh, very good. Okay. Scrooge or the Grinch? What's your favorite?
Grinch,
Okay, good.
because he's immune.
Uh, clear lights or colored?
Clear.
Okay.
No, probably not the
Yeah.
popular choice.
I always say I think I'm a fan of the clear on the tree. I think I like even though this year I had clear outside as well, but I do like the colored sometimes outside
Mhm.
on the lights.
Fair enough.
Okay. Would you rather be in a snowball fight or build a snowman?
Build a snowman.
Okay, good. And would you consider yourself a good gift wrapper?
No, no. I'm not my husband's a great gift wrapper.
Oh yeah,
So my skills are shabby in comparison.
very good. Okay. Last question: do you have an ugly Christmas sweater?
No, but I kind of wish I did. I kind of wish I did, but I do not. Sadly.
Well, we have a ugly Christmas sweater uh, design in our merch store.
Oh,
If you want it, a
I'll check
T-shirt
that
design.
out. Okay.
You have to check that out. You can even get it in a mask. You can get the design. But thank you so much for coming on the podcast. This was a lot of fun. This was something a little bit different, and I really enjoyed getting to hear about what you do and talking about Rachel Boston. And so thank you so much for coming on and doing this. This was
Rachel, thank
great.
you so much. I had a blast.
Yeah. So if people want to follow you on social media, all that fun stuff, how can they do that?
I'm on Instagram and Twitter at PLC Peggy, and the website is PeggyLi.com.
Great. We'll have all that in the description section. People can follow you and check out your amazing jewelry. And they make sure people are following the podcast, Hallmarkies Pod and Hallmarkies Podcast, all our social media. And if you're listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. That really helps us out so much. And if you are listening on YouTube, please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that so much. You can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all of our social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. And I very much appreciate you following me over there. And we also have our Patreon group, which is so much fun and is so important to helping us be able to do the podcast. So if you can help us out at all with that, we really appreciate it. And then we also have our merch store, as I mentioned, which has tons of fun designs. And so please take a look over there. There's sales for this whole month, I believe, over at TeePublic. So check that out. And thanks again, Peggy. This was great. And we will talk to you all later. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.